Hello everyone! In today's demo, we'll walk you through our newest application, AZ Creator, and how it works. You can load it directly into the Tekla Components catalog, or simply run it as a standalone .exe application from Windows Explorer. It's built using C#, the .NET framework, and Tekla Open API, with AKD# used for handling DXF and DWG files. Here's the UI of the app. First, load a CAD file containing your beams, a structural framing plan, by clicking Load Beams. You can also load a grid file for columns using Load Columns. These files contain the data for beams and columns. When loading plans, the file name must represent the top of steel elevation in the same units as your Open Tekla model. In our example, that's millimeters. You can load one plan at a time, or multi-select all your project plans at once. The app will read and display all beams found in the file. We'll explain the CAD file format in a separate video. Stay tuned for that. After loading, you'll see a summary of beam types and quantities. You can customize the part and assembly prefixes, start numbers, beam or column names, materials, and select standard profiles from the built-in catalogs. You can modify any entry individually. Once done, click Insert to Tekla and all beams, polybeams, or curved beams will be created, each at its correct elevation, recognized from the plan file name. The app also auto-assigns a class for beams sharing the same profile. This classification feature is also available separately for already created elements. Note: the app adds data when loading files. It doesn't clear previously loaded content unless you press Clear Loaded. It also detects and skips duplicate beams, but only within a single insertion session. So, it's best to insert as much framing as possible in a single insertion session to avoid creating duplicates. If you insert the same file twice, duplicates may be created again. Beams within a 50 mm tolerance are treated as duplicates. If they're more than 200 mm apart, both will be created. For horizontal bracings, they need to be manually lowered, as they're created at the top of steel level by default. Now for columns. Before loading the grid file, let's clarify something. CAD files are 2D, so we need a third coordinate to convert the geometry into a 3D model. For beams, that's taken from the file name. But for columns, we don't know if the missing coordinate is in the X or Y direction. That's why the app asks for two inputs. 1. The origin point from the CAD file. Since we can't assume a fixed origin like plans. 2. A direction helper, to know whether depth should be along X or Y. And that's it. The application can now generate a full 3D assignment for all members with accurate positioning. However, because the app needs those inputs for columns, you can't load multiple grid files at once. So you'll need to load each grid file separately. But the good news is, you don't need to insert them separately. You can keep loading all your grids, then insert them into Tekla in one go. The same applies to beams. You can load beams and grids together, then insert everything at once. Just keep in mind, the name prefix and start number settings will apply to both beams and columns when inserted together. Another great feature in the application is Export CSV. This allows you to save all loaded data, whether it came from a CAD file or from the Get Selected from Tekla feature, and export it to a CSV file. This is useful for storing the geometry or transporting it to another Tekla version, possibly even an older one, or sharing it with another user. But please note, in order to import a CSV file into the application, it must follow the same format as the one exported from it. Another feature we've already mentioned is Get Selected from Tekla. This loads all the needed data, from beams, polybeams, curved beams, or columns, into the application in the same internal format it uses. Once you have this file, you can load it into any Tekla version, as long as it has the application installed. There's also a new feature we haven't talked about yet. Highlight non-straight beams. This tool highlights all horizontal beams that are not aligned in one direction, either global X or global Y. This means it will highlight all horizontal bracing. But more importantly, it will also catch any beams that should be aligned but aren't due to modeling inconsistencies. I think this is more than enough for now. As mentioned before, a separate video will be uploaded soon to explain the CAD preparation process, including the required format for both plans and elevations. The application itself will be available for sale very soon. We're just adding the final touches. For purchasing inquiries, please feel free to message me directly or send an email. I'll include it in this post. Thanks for watching, and stay tuned for more.